Enough light on my screen.
Yep.
We're live, man. We are live. I
Yeah,
love
we are.
it. That's a
Uh,
word. It's live.
yep. Here we go. That's a word. Okay. All right. I gotta get my head right. Let me get my head right, Marcia. Okay. All right. Welcome to That's a Word. With Marcia and Gino. I'm Gino Morrow.
And I'm Marcia Williams Cromer.
And we begin each conversation with intention, one word at a time. Let's get into it. All right. Today's word is one we hear constantly, scroll past daily, and maybe even inspire to become. And that word is influencer. Now, I dug up some interesting facts because most of the words that we'll probably dig up are things that I just did not naturally gravitate toward, but I started thinking about once we decided to do the show. So,
Right.
started looking into influencer because I like just looking into the root of words and realizing that influencers existed before the term became a popular term.
Before they were given a name, right?
Right. So this was some interesting things that I dug up about influencers. So here's what's wild: the word influence, the word that feels so modern, so now, actually dates back to the mid 1600s. But
Okay.
back then, it had nothing to do with Instagram and brand deals, of course. It was tied to astrology and mystical forces, things that exerted influence over your fate. I thought that that was very interesting because if we take influence out of the context of social media and we look at who were some of the influencers before modern day influencers, it was like the politicians, the preachers, pastors, ministers, movie stars,
Yep.
things of that nature. And then over time, when in the advent of social media, it was the bloggers who first picked up the title influencers, like the
Right. Exactly.
bloggers and bloggers, and that became influencer became synonymous with those types, and then naturally once social media picked up into Instagram and Facebook and so on, you have a different type of influencer, which is strictly associated with the selling of a product or a service. And so I thought what I thought was interesting about being an influencer today is that it's it has to do with a product. It doesn't have to do with your ability to impact somebody's life in a positive way. It has to do with how well you're able to sell a product for a company.
It's true. It's true. And honestly, to your point, when you said the word influencer, I guess my first thoughts, honestly, was family. Because I'm growing up, I'm thinking those are definitely the first people who influenced me. And then as you go and you're in school and you got friends now, let's be real, friends influence us a lot, right? Um,
Mhm.
but now it has just taken on, it's like how words grow. And it's just amazing to me how words can actually have a life of their own and grow. And now to your point, influencer is really aligned with a product and how well, even if it is, a show that you have that allows you to have eyes on that show, which means that if you align yourself with a product, more people are going to see it.
Right. When you say how words have a life of their own, it reminded me of how like sometimes words are taken and co-opted and the meanings change. So
Uh,
let me give
okay.
you an example from our last show. I talked about racism, and
Yep.
so when I look back uh, at the term Black Lives Matter and what it meant initially as a response, the Black community's response to police killings and so on and so forth, and then all of a sudden it became synonymous with a failed organization that uh, probably in many ways was set up to fail because it was funded by a billionaire. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. As soon as I saw that, as soon as I saw the momentum building behind Black Lives Matter, I was like, something ain't right about this.
Well,
This is not all of
but
us. Not
but
all.
that's capitalism, right? It's like follow the whatever people are looking at. If they're looking at it, put some money behind it so that they look at us as well, because they're going to need money to keep this thing going, keep it afloat.
What I began to see and realize and understand, especially being in the arena of military, was that it was an interesting war strategy, because the strategy is, so if you'll observe what takes place in a lot of the protests, you'll have a group of people that's conducting a peaceful protest, and then the opposition will plant people within those protesters to start up like riots,
Agitators. Yeah.
agitators, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's an intentional strategy, whereas you appear as if you're a part of a team just so that you can stir up controversy and give the police or the military or the government a reason to use force against you. I'm using that as an example to say, like, because I mentioned Black Lives Matter, and I
Yep.
believe Black Lives Matter was very much the same way. It was an attempt. It was the recognition that there was momentum behind that word, Black Lives Matter, and then a white billionaire realized how it could circumvent our movement by infiltrating, funding, and then deviating. Because what was once built on the blacks of the death of black men, um, like Trayvon Martin and Gray and Castile, I think Philando Castile out in
And
Minneapolis.
the brother in Minnesota, George Floyd.
Oh yeah, and George
Yep.
Floyd, right?
Yep.
So the Black Lives Matter statement derived or grew out of the death of black men. But when you go to the website, and I'm not trying to deviate from the topic, I'm gonna try and make the point, but
No. I get you. I get
yeah.
you.
But when I went to the website, I was shocked when I heard this, because somebody actually said in a conversation with me, well, if you go to their website, it has nothing to do with black men at all. It's about LGBTQ. And I went to
Mm.
the website and I looked at their mission statement. And I was like, that's absolutely correct. Wow. So you built on, and that helped me realize, okay, the money that was put into this stirred it away from the original purpose. Now, why am I saying that? I'm saying that because when you want to, I've watched warfare be waged upon us as a people.
Mhm.
And one of the things that's done, our words get co-opted to create different meanings. Like at one point, you noticed how they used DEI to somehow mean black women and black
Yep.
men, but the benefactors of DEI
Come on.
were never
Yep.
primarily black men
It's
and black
white women.
right. So they were able to take a privilege away from white people simply because they got them to believe that somehow it benefited black people more.
Exactly.
They
It's
took a
so
word
wrong.
and they redefined it,
Yeah.
and it took ownership of it. And so similarly, like with the word influencer, we recognized, because at the end of the day, like if you get down to the basic, what basically is an influencer is what you do while you're here on this planet. Like all of us have watched somebody in our
Yep.
lifetime that didn't know we were watching them, and we learned something good or bad or indifferent from
Mhm.
observing that person. That's an influence. They influenced us.
That's right. Those are influencers at that point.
Right. So just your existence makes you an influencer,
I
because
love that. I love that, right? And to your
yes,
point, it could be good, bad, or indifferent. We learn from people who are negative influencers. It's like, okay, that looks like trash. I don't want to do that, so I'm going to move a little differently.
so what I think the challenge is, and I agree, what I think the challenge is this shows me how oftentimes words are commandeered, they're taken away, they're revised, and some of them do have a natural evolution, like the word Nigger derived from Niger,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
the pronunciation was similar or the same in many cultures. Nonetheless, the meaning evolved over time depending on who narrated the story.
Right,
You
right.
know.
It's interesting because I was a little kid in school when we were studying history and geography, and that location in the world comes up, right?
Hmm.
And we just started cracking up. We thought, oh my God,
Uh-huh.
there's
It's a whole
actually,
country.
you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
But that was our ignorance.
Right.
And our teacher was trying to share with us, this is the history of that word, and oh my God. And I was embarrassed for laughing. Yeah, I mean, I understood at that point,
Hmm.
listen first. And
Yeah.
especially when you don't know. And we didn't know. We were kids. We didn't
Right.
know anything. She was
Right.
trying to school us.
Right. Right. But the way that words are oftentimes, like, one of the things that I thought was interesting in studying for the influencer, it's trying to, find some background information on the word influencer, is it made me recognize how there are periods of time within um, history, American history, where words are taken out of and added to. And
Hmm.
so you can look at, like, maybe, let's just say, over 2 decades, and you'll see. Or here's another example: names change, like the use of certain names. And, like, back in the day, there were certain names that were more used more heavily, and, like, you'll never see those names today. Like Annie Mae, you ain't gonna find too many Annie Mae's today, but back
Right,
in
right.
1960s, that might have been a very common name. And similarly with words, like, certain words are added to or taken away, which I found to be interesting, because when they talk about the dumbing down of our education system, certain words have been removed and more simplified words have been added. Um, so it tells me that words are oftentimes the premise, because words are used to cast spells. Words are used to influence people,
Yeah,
direct people.
exactly. And there's power in words.
Power, life or death.
Yeah.
Those who love it. What's this? What's the scripture? Uh,
That life and death is in the
Power, and the
power of
power
the
of the tongue.
tongue.
And those who love it will eat the fruit of it. Right. Right. Yeah. Amen.
Amen.
So yeah, that's my word, influencer. And I think where I would leave off is simply, because I could go down, and you know me, I'll just go down the rabbit hole and keep
That
talking.
rabbit hole is deep, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. But where I'll leave it is that we're all influencers, and beyond all of us being influencers, we are all um we all have a degree of control over language. And oftentimes, in order for us to align with each other, there has to be an agreement upon what words mean, so that when we're speaking to each other, although we may be using a similar word, sometimes we're not even using the same definition for that word. And in order for us to be in alignment with each other, like, not only do we have to use similar words, we have to make sure that the words mean the same thing. So when I speak of being an influencer, I probably won't be speaking from the perspective of someone who can influence you to buy a product, but someone who has a divine purpose to leave a unique fingerprint on humanity through the unique life that they live and the impact that they have on somebody else.
I know. It's so true. I love that.
So, Marcia, what's your word?
My word, Gino, is survival. And I'm going to give you just a brief definition. It's the capacity to endure and continue living through or existing after dangerous, hostile, or critical conditions, often relying on instinct and specialized skills. And this is just so apropos for what we were talking about, how you talked about how words have changed.
Mhm.
50 years, 100 years, 200 years ago, the idea of survival was literally life and death. And
Yeah.
so what I'm being told, even through the definition, is ways to survive. There's a rule of three, that 3 minutes without breath, okay, you
Wow.
may not survive.
Mhm.
3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, which I still think is just absolutely crazy. There's no way I could live 3 weeks without food, but that's the medical definition behind that as well.
Right, right.
However, when I chose this word, I wasn't thinking of any of those things. I was thinking about how right now in our climate, our culture is
Mhm.
just on the front line.
Yeah.
Like, will we survive this? And,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess if you get shot in the street, and you are without air for 3 minutes, you may not survive. But my question becomes more, why is this word resonating for me on such a visceral level?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's just like raw and real.
Uh-oh.
Everybody knows it, but the word is changing every day.
Yeah.
The word as it was intended to be, it's on some levels changing for us every day.
Yeah.
Will you survive just, some Karen coming up on you and, trying to wreck your day for no reason, just because they have been empowered by, a crazy authoritarian government that says, oh, if they're Black, you're over them. Say whatever you want. You're good. We don't care. Well, we
Oh,
got your back.
man.
Go for it. Go for it. Knock
So
yourselves out.
true. So true. Like, even like, I mean, I can imagine, our Hispanic brothers and sisters, challenged with the idea of surviving a confrontation with ICE.
Yeah.
Hell, hell,
Yeah.
even our Black brothers and sisters, because
Yeah,
they walk
exactly.
into us now,
And
you
and
know?
you know what? And it doesn't matter. I don't care what color you are. It is just gotten, I think, in everybody's psyche now, which is why I don't watch the news every day. I just can't do it.
Yeah,
But it doesn't matter that it's not happening to me today. It is so painful to watch it happen to anybody.
yeah.
And in the last few days, where I'm aware, of people who are white who happen to be killed, and it
Mhm.
just breaks my heart. I'm like, on every single level, this is wrong.
Mhm.
And people are people. That's how I see them. I care about them all, and I want all of us to survive.
Yeah,
I want to pivot just a little bit to
yeah.
talk about a young cousin that I
Mhm.
have that recently passed away. And actually, that was on this past Wednesday. And he's only 40 years old.
That's young.
He lost his dad in June. So, like 7 months and a day later,
Sorry to hear
he's
that.
passed away,
Yeah.
younger than you would expect someone to pass away. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm hearing almost every day, every week at least, that some kid, to me, somebody 40 or under, has expired. And at some point, I'm like, where are we giving up? Where are we giving up on the desire to survive?
Yeah, yeah.
We got to look at that, man. It's ugly out there,
And that's
and
a
our hearts are just breaking, and not everybody has the equipment and support, or family support, whichever it is, or therapy support, to navigate that pain.
and I think
And
you
as
raised
Black
a good point.
people, mm,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm saying, and as Black people, we've got hundreds of years of pushing that trauma down to the point that it is literally a part of who we are in our DNA. Trauma is actually part of our fiber,
Yeah,
hypertension, diabetes, all these things that over generations, we now suffer with. And it is just, at the age of 40, why wouldn't someone want to survive?
right. And survive it just that reminds me that survival it's almost relative. Like, some people's survival is, can I get the medication I need for my diabetes
Yeah.
today? or and
Yeah.
some people's survival is, can I make it home after school? Some people's survival is, he put his hands on me or she put her hands on me, but they claim they love me.
Right.
How
Right.
long am I gonna make it? And then, of course, I mean, with everything that's going on in America today, survival is like, man, can I get a job? Can I
A-
find a means of sustaining my livelihood?
And to your point with your word, you talked about how the words evolve and change. This word, as I looked it up originally, was basically how do you find yourself in a life threatening, desperate situation, most likely out in the elements. What do you do to survive? Here's where you find yourself. Now, here's what you do to survive. It ain't no surviving this shit, man. Just like, dude, a 40-year-old kid went out of his house one night, came home, laid down, and closed his eyes for good.
Wow. It
And I
makes you want to get
know
close
this
to God.
kid was still battling the pain of losing his father.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and
He might have
and
been heartbroken.
and he's 6 feet 5, big guy, strong guy, walking around crying every time he saw a video of his dad roping his dad was a nationally renowned calf roper.
Yeah.
You see these videos
Yeah.
and you just breaking down. This baby he was not surviving. He was
Man.
not surviving.
Man. And what would it have taken? I mean, we don't know, but like, what would it have taken? Like, maybe we didn't even know, you didn't know, the family didn't know that he was in high survival mode, like he was on the extreme edges of survival. Maybe he didn't even appear to be in that frame of, life.
I,
Um,
I and you know what I say? I say part of it is because we were all surviving.
yeah,
We were all trying to survive. We lost his dad 7 months ago. We didn't even realize, dude, it shocked us so because we weren't over the last one.
right, right.
It's a lot. So I would even ask the listeners that are on here with us just to remember, check on your loved ones. Survival isn't just about being outside in the cold or without food or the or air, breath.
Yeah,
It is literally about getting up every day, checking on your people, knowing that we're okay, they're okay, and being actually prepared to understand that this word, like many words, are starting to take on a whole different shape and form in terms of their meaning now.
wow, wow. You know, wow, that just left me stumped because I had a thought around that, and then it was just like, yeah, I'm in that space. It does take on a very different meaning today.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I appreciate you letting me speak my word, brother. I appreciate that.
Oh, it's all love. It's interesting how the two words tie together because part of what I was thinking was, to survive, there's a level of vulnerability that we and trust we have to have with each other. Like, you know, maybe he didn't know how to be vulnerable enough to say what he was
That's
struggling.
it.
Um,
That's it.
and
That's it.
it ties into influence because maybe if we try and influence people in a positive way, meaning if we show ourselves trustworthy to where people can open up to us, and it's oftentimes difficult because we're surviving. You know, we're surviving.
Exactly. 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 And also to your point, I feel like to feel powerful enough that you're in a position to help someone else, we're all just like bobbing above water.
Right.
So and especially in these economic times and what
Right.
have everybody's just trying to stay buoyed.
Yep.
And I feel like to have the sense of power in oneself that you can be an influencer. That's
Yeah.
major. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are influencers and don't realize it because they don't feel empowered to step into that role.
That is a fact. That is a fact, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of people don't realize that they're influencers because they don't believe that they matter to other people. They don't
That's
believe
right.
that
That's right.
they're
That
like,
part.
I'm sure your nephew, like, I don't know if he would ever recognize the pain that his absence left behind, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's so amazing that this big robust guy, you know, was just struggling. He was struggling to get to the next day after the loss of his dad.
yeah,
And while, I don't think it was anything that he would have wanted to put his family through,
yeah,
it has happened. And now the rest of us have to survive.
yeah, yeah, yep, yep. Well, not to make light, but we gonna be alright.
We're gonna
We
be all right.
right,
We're gonna be all right. Absolutely. Because you know what? First of all, I think recognizing where we are and that we are all vulnerable, to your point, says, raise your hand, just step up. Sometimes just a phone call. I talked to him via, well, we were texting each other on Monday,
mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Do you know what it means to me to have talked to him that recently? It means
and
the world to me.
yeah,
It has
yeah,
actually offered me some peace in all of this craziness.
yeah. I have a brief
Yeah.
story to share around survival. So I had an interesting talk with my wife last night. Um,
Mhm.
I think I was really just dealing with food poisoning, but I thought I was dying. It was it was like, I don't like, what is
It
going on?
feels that way. Just FYI, if that's your first time dealing with it, that's exactly what it feels like.
My goodness. But,
Yeah, because your
I
body is rejecting everything that's poisonous.
everything, I didn't even wanna eat. I tried, none. It wasn't taking all that energy was geared toward whatever it was fighting. But
Yeah,
nonetheless,
exactly.
I just thought I was in a spiritual I was just like, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I couldn't tell it was my body. I thought it was just my mind and like, I'm going through this thing. And I had I usually take my Saturdays, to honor, and worship, on my own. I'm not a type of person to go into, a building or a church or anything like that. But on my own, I spend time in nature and I talk with God and I have my conversations and deal with the things that I have a difficult time finding answers to. So anyway, last night or yesterday, I was going through my thing, and my wife came home, and this was probably the first time I had ever asked her in this manner. I said, "Can I be vulnerable with you?" Um, because that's not the kind of man that I am. I'm the he man. I have to
I
be
know
a
you,
firm.
Gino. I know you,
Yeah.
brother.
And but I was feeling between the sickness and the spiritual back and forth. I felt like my attempt to survive is being hindered. And I needed to really just
Mm,
say that, like, babe, I'm not feeling like I'm doing it at the level that I am accustomed to, and it's making me feel a certain kind of way, and I need to
right.
express that. And I think I wanted to share that because when you talked about, you know, vulnerability and survival, and, it made me think, sometimes we as men, get caught into this mindset of having to put forth this front. I'm a 6'5", 300-pound man. I can't I can't be perceived as weak, or most people won't embrace me if I presented myself as having a moment of weakness.
Right.
So
Right.
I simply stay in the lane that people project on me and that I've come to embrace as a part of my identity. And so me going through that yesterday, which was a rare moment, that's never happened between my wife and I. I've never said that
Mhm.
before.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and then to have this conversation today, it reminds me that I think a part of our survival is the ability to be transparent and vulnerable, because some people will try and take advantage of it, but you'll find your tribe, the people that you're supposed to adhere to, that will love you and support you. You'll weed out the unnecessary, and you'll find
Yeah.
the people that really
Yeah.
love you and that you can really love
Yeah.
individually.
But and I just got to interject at the the big piece here is we got to mature to the point that we own our own need to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that those of us like yourself, like me, who recognize the role that other people have seen us in for, the multitudes, the decades, right?
Right.
And, I've recently come through that piece where I'm like, but I don't want to be living like this. I don't want to be, taking care and being the one that shows up all the time or whatever. And really nobody asked me to do it.
That's right.
I
That's
just thought,
right.
okay, that's my role. Let me show up because I know what to do. I know how to do it. And then I'm just like stretched so thin that finally that little freight of rope snaps. And I'm like, Negro, you ain't got nobody to blame but yourself.
But yourself.
Okay.
I know where I got that from,
Yep.
because I'm the same way. And I'm like, well, I want to teach people how I want to be treated.
Right.
So
Right.
I'm going to extend myself all this way so
Right.
that when I want it in return, they'll go, okay, he did it for me, I'm gonna do it for him.
No,
And you
no,
learn
no.
that
On,
that
on some
never happens.
level, you start to realize that is so transactional. It's
Yep.
like they see that you can do it, you will do it, you're happy to do it, you don't look like you're frustrated about it,
It ain't no causing no
but there's
pain.
no reciprocity in that
No,
mix at all. Nah,
no,
you can keep on going, boo.
no. So I'm saying that to say, yeah, you got to get to a point where you ultimately go, I'm creating my own pain.
Yes, yes. And you know what? You can get over it then when
And
you
you're
own your fault or your, issue in terms of prolonging that
yeah,
situation happening.
yeah,
Yeah, because you got to forgive yourself now. Come on,
right,
come on. You
right.
got to, at least I do. If I'm looking in the mirror and I own my own stuff, if I can forgive me, everybody else is good. I'm
Okay.
harder on myself than anybody.
Okay, and I'm gonna tell you one of the funnest words. I hated that it took me so long to learn, but boy, saying no is so fun. Nope,
And guess
not
what?
doing it.
The folks that you finally have to say that to, just find a new you until that person gets tired of it.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's their MO. It's okay if that's how they want to, roll. That's okay. Once you decide, there's a thing I saw a meme not too long ago, and it said there are folks out there who don't realize how hard you were fighting for them until you park.
Yeah.
And once you sit down, they're like, what happened to you? It must be something wrong with you. No,
Yeah.
there was, but there isn't now.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
right.
good. I'm good. That's the word. That's the word, Gino. This was a great show, man.
Thank you. Thank you. We gonna keep on pushing it, because I know we got a lot to talk about.
Clearly. We're
So
just gonna keep jumping on. How about that?
let's do that. And so we're gonna conclude this episode and prepare for the next one. But Marcia, thank you. Thank you for being a space to allow me to tell my story,
Yes.
and to have your story reflect what I see in myself.
I love that. I
So thank
love
you.
that. I love that. And I just want to remind everybody, if you have not subscribed to this channel, please, please do so that you get notified anytime we have a show. Jump on, put some info in the comments so that we can start some great dialogue. We appreciate you guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you.